I think so.
It's
Chavdal, the based on the bottom of the Mishnah. Last Mishnah we had, the Mishnah said 10 or 11 things that Kodesh, a Korban, is stricter than Tuma. That was the last Mishnah, and it brings in a bunch of things, 11 things, or according to one opinion, 10 things. And this Mishnah is going to turn around and say, where do we find Tuma to be more choymel, more strict than Kodesh? So, Zog the Mishnah. Choymel b'Tuma sheba Yehuda nemanim al tas yain. I printed out, I forgot in the office. Yehuda, after the Mamlechus of Shlomo Melech,
No, one more.
a little bit later. But after that, he was like the Malchus Yisrael HaMeochedes, what was finished by then a little bit later. But then later on, Eretz was split in three really. It was split in Yehuda. Yehuda is the whole bottom of Eretz, including Yerushalayim, a little bit above Yerushalayim, and includes like the whole bottom section until where Eretz finishes.
Ashkelon.
Ashkelon, Ashdod.
Ashdod, that's right.
He's in Ashdod, not yeah, he's in Ashdod, not Ashkelon. Ashkelon is where the rockets are falling. That whole section, including actually, officially according to some Aza. The top part was called the Golil. It's called the Golil. So the Mishnah says that in Yehuda, in the part of Yehuda, which included Yerushalayim, what it said is that the Yidden were trusted al tahas yayin v'shemen. So if you had oil or wine that would go on the mizbeach, either shemen for the menachas or wine for the nesachim or whatever it was, and it would go on the mizbeach. So the Yidden were trusted that year round they were trusted that they kept the wine and the oil betahal. Like before, we said we don't trust in Amadas, we don't trust this. Here we trust in Amadas as well. We trust in Amadas the entire year because he knew Kodesh. Taisa says, like in the middle of the bottom, Taisa says, She'emas Kodesh Olav, that there's a fear because it's Kodesh. They're fearful because it has a certain sanctity, so they have a certain fear and they make sure that it doesn't become
Tummy. They had the Beis Hamikdash by them.
Right.
And the Golil was.
Well, the Gemarrah is gonna explain it, but the idea was that they knew no more Kodesh you can't mess around with. It's not something chulin you mess around with. Kodesh is not something you mess around with. There's a certain aim, a certain fear of messing around, making a tummy. Therefore, you're able to trust a Amos. Let's back it up a second. The whole reason we say an Amos is tummy and we can't trust any of these things is Gzeira de Rabbanan. It's not Midarais, it's the Rabbanan. So the Rabbanan have the power to say that in certain instances we say the Gzeira, certain instances we say that the Gzeira doesn't apply. So when it comes to Tuma in Yehuda, so the entire year they trusted him on Tuma. So one second, sorry, Kodesh. Ubashas hagites ve'abadim, and at the time when they would press, the gites is pressing wine, badim is pressing the oil, which was around Tisha time. Afal Tuma, they would also trust the haaretz on Tuma. So basically, what happens is that when it comes to time of gites ve'abadim, when they would press the olives and the wine, then the haaretzim would toivel themselves and toivel the kelim, and make sure everything is pure and toivel, because they know that it could become, they can eventually dedicate it to the Beis Hamikdash, to the Mizbeach, it can become Kodesh, etc. So at that time, even Tuma was considered Tana. But year-round, only Kodesh was Tana, Tuma was not. However, very interesting halacha, the Mishnah finishes off and says, is at the time of pressing the wine and the oil passed, which is Tisha time, and if that time passed, and Amalz brought a barrel of wine, Shel Tuma, to a Kohen, do not receive it as Kodesh. You cannot tell him, okay, I accept the Tuma and it's a Kodesh Tuma, I can use the Tuma. No, you cannot accept it as that. But the Amalz can take that same barrel that the Kohen rejected, put it away for next Tishrei, or next Gaz, whenever the next pressing season is, and then give it back to the Kohen, and then the Kohen can accept it as Kodesh.
You don't trust in that.
As Tuma, what? No, you can have accepted it as Kodesh. It's Kodesh for sure, we know. Even if Tuma, you can accept it as that it's toil.
The same liquid is inside?
The same liquid, the same barrel. What's Pshat? Because they made a Gzeira the entire year on the Haaretz. So, B'shas Gites Babadim, they took off the Gzeira. But if he came back the next year, if he kept it in a storage the entire year, he also kept it with a certain aim, with a certain fear, because he knew it's going to go eventually to the Kohen. So we can trust him. That's again the Chachamim took off their gzeira. It's not like it's minatoyla. It's like this. Minatoyla says it's fine. The Chachamim added the gzeira that haaretz is tameh. So the Chachamim took off the gzeira and said that b'shas gites ve'abadim, I take the gzeira off, and therefore now you can use the shemen and oil. And not only that, if you now use it a year later, you come back with the same barrel a year later, it's also going to trust you. Why? In the middle of the year, they couldn't take off the gzeira because then you're laughing at the whole gzeira thing. But if it came gites ve'abadim, then the time of gites ve'abadim, you were able to use it again. Ve'im amaloi frashti l'soicha revius kodesh, and if the haaretz tells the kohen that inside this barrel of wine, I want to remove a certain part and use it for kodesh, for the mizbeach. Nemon, then he is going to be trusted on the entire barrel. If the barrel is one barrel of wine and it's mixed tumah wine and it's mixed basically kodesh wine, how is it mixed? It's basically he didn't do anything with it. It's actually still chulin. He comes to the Beis Hamikdash and he says, "This I would like to." What
is it? The Mai?
It's tevel.
Tevel.
Yeah. So it's not. Tumah wasn't taken. And he comes to Beis Hamikdash and says, "I want to give this X amount should be the tumah of all the other wines that I have, all the other whatever I have, and the rest or the whatever X amount I want it to be going on. I want it to be going on the mizbeach as nesachim, going on the mizbeach." So if he says that I put inside enough wine for both, including kodesh, we could, because the kodesh we trust him, we also trust him on the tumah. Because the kodesh, even though it's not kodesh yet, the chiddush yet, even though it's not kodesh yet, it's going to be kodesh. But the haaretz knows because I want it to be kodesh, I'm going to be careful with it. And now I trust him also tumas, and even though it's not the gitas abadim, it could be in the middle of the year. Kadeyayin, another loch. Kadeyayin v'kadeshemen. Jugs of wine or jugs of oil. Hamedumois. Rashi says here, medumois means that it's tevel. It wasn't tumah, wasn't taken, but there's certain parts of this tumah and there's chulin mixed up. So nemonim aleim b'shas hagitos. Now because there's tumah inside, so technically we should trust him b'shas hagitos. So the Gemarrah says, Mishnah says b'shas hagitos we trust it. That everything is torah because he wouldn't mix the tumah with the chulin if it's not torah. The koydem hagitos shivim yamin, before the gitos he trusts him for 70 days. Not more than that. The Gemarrah is going to. The Gemarrah is actually not going to discuss what's the point of the 7 days, but the Gemarrah is just going to say that because from here we learn that someone has to go clean the kalim 7 days before. But the Gemarrah does not discuss what the point of the 7 days. But the 7 days is the prep. You're getting into that mode of gitas ve'abadim. So they say those 70 days I trust you already on the kalim. I trust you already that everything you do is v'tahala, and therefore if you put the oil and wine into your pots and pans during 7 days before, and it's still mixed up, and then he brings Beis Hamikdash, it's all good. So in short, Turuma has a certain chumrah in the fact that we don't trust the haaretz year round, but kodesh we trust the haaretz year round if he keeps it for kodesh, that he keeps it clean. Zog the Gemarrah. The Gemarrah is asking a question. So I said in Yehuda, yeah, Yerushalayim is there, but Galil, anywhere else in Etzisol, we don't trust them. So the Gemarrah said, Yehuda in Galil, loy my time. And what's the reason Galil we don't trust? What's the difference? In between Galil and Yehuda, there's a strip of land that the Kutim lived in there, and there's a klal. The Chacham said that the haaretz of Ha'amim, the land of the nations, if it's not Jewish, they have a tumah. Right away they have a tumah. Why did they have a tumah? They explain, because they are not careful. They're not careful where they bury their dead. So they could be the bury their dead anywhere. And now they could be the bury their dead anywhere. And we don't know where the cave, the kvadim are. And they later on also more than that. Later on, you bring a plow, someone plows a field, and there could be a dead body in there. The plow would go and rip apart the body in fragments of bones. More than a kazayis would be around the entire field. So the entire field is called now a stea plas. So therefore, the haaretz ha'amim have right away a tumah. You walk through it, you become tumah right away. So between Yehuda and Galil, there's a strip of land that belongs to the kutim, and therefore it's tumah. Now we don't know, we can't cross. So basically, someone living in Galil, he can't, even if we don't say that we trust him simply because there's no reason for them to keep it pure, because there's no point. There's no point for them keeping it pure. They can't bring it to Yerushalayim anyways. Frei die Gemarrah.
So obviously the strip was the north was higher than Yerushalayim.
Yeah. Frei die Gemarrah. Let them put it into a Shida Teva Migdal. We know halacha that if you have a dead body in an oil, the entire oil becomes tummy. However, if the dead body is underneath the oil, and the oil is a closed oil, big enough for a person to be inside, and it's closed like a box. A Shida Teva Migdal is a box, or a bigger box, a Migdal, a tower. So you can be on top of a dead body and not be tummy, because the box keeps the tummy out.
I thought it is a problem. Some people don't fly with the plane over the cemetery because it's still.
So some people.
That's a Satan or a Chuma.
No, they wrap themselves in a plastic bag because.
Oh, we learned that. No,
we learned it once, yeah.
Yeah.
So tumor bekas v'oilas, what's it called? No, so there's a machlokes, and he's going to say it now. The Rebbe says that a Shida Teva Migdal does not help on a moving object. Plane, a donkey, you would put a box on top of a donkey, and the donkey would go, and it doesn't make a difference where it's going, it's fine. But the Rebbe says it's a problem, because oil zog, the Gemara is going to say lashma oil. The only way to separate between the dead body and yourself is if you are in your own oil, in your own tent. So Shida Teva Migdal is considered an own tent, but it's considered its own tent, but only if it's stationary, according to the Rebbe. If it's moving, if it's on top of an animal, of whatever, some people are carrying you, then it's considered a moving tent, and it's called the oil zolok, it's moving around. And lashma. So the Gemara asks, put it inside a box. This mission goes according to Rebbe, the Oma oil zolok, lashma oil, that a oil zolok is not considered an oil, and therefore if it's not an oil, it's not mafsik, it doesn't separate between the tumah and the person becomes tameh, and therefore you can't pass the haaretz of the kutim, you can't pass the land of the kutim. If someone walks into the Am b'shida migdal, Rebbe says tameh. Okay, that's the machlokes. So now we know it's Rebbe, and you can't put it in a box because it doesn't help, and it has to pass through the haaretz kutim, which is haaretz amim. So right away, whatever is bringing up the yain or the wine or the oil will become tameh. Carry it in a barrel of earthenware, earthen vessel that is smuk of tzomit posel. It's totally sealed from the top. As we learned in the Baisa, ein hegdish nitzla b'tzomit posel. The chacham added a chumla on kodesh. So truma you can save. Anything else like lower level you can save. Maisa, whatever it is. When it comes to kodesh, a korban ein kodesh nitzla b'tzomit posel. We added a chumla that even though it's inside a barrel and the barrel is sealed, it doesn't save it. We learned in the Bible saying chatos nitzels. Chatos is the highest level of kedusha. Only a chatos is not nitzel b'tzomit posel, cannot be saved in such a barrel. My love, high kodesh nitzel, but anything lower than a chatos, like kodesh, a korban that goes in his berach, could be saved. Everything more loy. When it says chatos, it's coming to exclude something else in the korban chatos. If you brought water to mix the ashes of the korban of the chatas, we're talking about the paladuma here, right? So the paladuma taka cannot be saved, even if you put the ashes in a barrel and carry. That cannot be. That won't work. But if you bring water in order to mix the water eventually with the ashes, the water could be fine. You can put water inside a barrel, seal it, walk through the haaretz amim, and you'll be fine. So the Gemarrah, Ula said that the Chaverim, the Talmidei Chachamim, are sitting in Galil, in Galus time, and they are preparing wine and oil for the Beis Hamikdash, because maybe the Shami Yibana Hamikdash, maybe the Beis Hamikdash is going to be rebuilt, and they right away will have ready stuff to bring to Beis Hamikdash. So then we see that you could prepare. If you say that walking through haaretz amim makes the yain and shemen tameh, why would it prepare it? To what point? They will still have to cross the haaretz amim. So at the Gemarrah, what happens when Mashiach is going to come? Manichan, they put it away. Liyav will come. You'll tell us. You'll tell us which path to take in haaretz amim where there's no bodies, and clear out the bodies and be able to travel. So basically, what we have in the Gemarrah is that in Yehuda, this halacha existed, that when it comes to Kodesh, you would trust the Amalatzim, that not exist in Golul. In also in Yehuda, also you trusted the Talmid Chacham, the Amalatzim in the time of Gitas Vabadim, even for Tumah. But now there's a couple questions. So you're saying there's an Eretz Amim that separates between the Golul and Yerushalayim, basically. How did the Yidden in Golul go to the Beis Hamikdash to now coming to Pesach, bring a Korban Pesach? If
You're saying Pasha, just regular, how did they go?
How did they go? If they passed Eretz Amim, they would have to go to the Beis Hamikdash, sit for a week in Yerushalayim, Shlishi Shvi.
The Eretz Amim was there b'shah Shlomo Melech, David Shlomo Melech and his son.
Later on, the Beis Hamikdash Sheni. Yeah. So when even the Beis Hamikdash wasn't destroyed till much later. So whenever the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, many kings later. So
yeah, but
the Kutim, I don't know when the Kutim came, but
right.
whatever there was a Beis Hamikdash was standing, and how would they walk from Galil to Yerushalayim to the Kaaba? And if you say they become Tamei, they won't have to sit in Yerushalayim for a week. Wait 3 days.
Went to the sea, went around.
So the sea, I thought of that option. That's not what the Gemarrah is. What's it's figured out in a second. It's a good answer, but I didn't. They didn't discuss it. It's a very long roundabout way going through the sea. Also, another thing is the Paraduma had to be made in Beis Hamikdash, the burning outside, the whole thing. But using the ashes to matire someone, to purify someone, doesn't have to be in Beis Hamikdash. He can go anywhere. So a person is in Golil and he goes to Bez and says, "Okay, I became Tamei. I did 3 days, 7 days now. I need spritzing on the 3rd day. I need spritzing on the 7th day." So they would bring ashes from Yerushalayim to the Golil. But you just said in the Gemarrah that even carrying the ashes in a sealed earthen vessel is not good. How did they bring it this way? Zok Toisus, Shalatzua Shalkutim of Sekas, Hiksha Avalchanan. Avalchanan was, I checked it up because in Chagiga in the last couple of pages, he's in Toisus, he's every Toisus, almost without fail, mentions Avalchanan. Avalchanan was a great-grandchild, great-great-grand, whatever. Grandchild, great-grandchild, great-great-grandchild of Rashi. Anyways, he was in France somewhere. So how would they bring the Ephah of the Pada to the Golil? The Eov Shalasoy El Yerushalayim, you can only bring the Ephah of the Pada Yerushalayim. Ve'im Kain, if you bring it back to Golil, Nitma Ba'avas, the Ephah Pada would become Tamim. And Vatais says, V'Shem, or maybe the Shvil Cotton Ika, there was a small path that they knew that this path has no dead bodies, and this path is toil. Shemo derech Cotton, a small narrow way path for them to use. Lahavi derech Sham, to bring the Ephah Bar through that. But to bring barrels of wine and oil, boy shil gadol, you need a much wider path, and they couldn't use it.
That's the best they could do.
Wait, wasn't there like fringes, like one layer and like 2 layer and like 2 layer?
Yeah, aval tzarich ir nahich oil neregel min gadol. How did they? Oil regel was hundreds and hundreds of people. You're gonna tell me they're gonna pass through a narrow path to get to what's it called? Given the afsikal, if there's a piece of land that belongs to the Eretz Amim, they become Tamim Nitma or Boya Zoy Gimel V'Zayin. They need to be split the 3rd and the 7th. He doesn't answer the question. But if you look on the side, Agoyes Maram Ronshburg, an Aleph. Right in the middle, on the Maseches Chagiga, on the Gochas Bach. Guys, it's nechte betzidoi. Ulen venir lanias daiti. Guckt euch von mir. Sho oilim al de shvarim, that they would use oxen, val gav dalses. So they had basically something that separated. They have oil, mafsik, lekula alma.
Isn't there a Gemarrah that the kids would sit on cows with boards, and they would make sure that they were never tummy, so that's how they would bring them.
This was for the
Kohen kids, that they would make sure that they were never tummy, and that's why they built the holes in the Yerushalayim, but they would put boards on top, so it wasn't an oil, it wasn't a Shida Tevo Migdal,
but it was
a board that was mafsik or something between.
So that's basically what it's saying. So that's how they would be oil legal. So anyone coming up from Golil would have to push it, hire oxen and break down doors, and the place was also a board. What?
You have to walk.
That's from the moment you reach Yerushalayim. That's from the moment Yerushalayim, that's when you walk. Because the Mishnah that says in Moed Cotton that cotton, what is he? Says, oh.
You draw the water like that.
Oh, that's what's about. This is how they would travel. They had a board
separating it.
Oh, that's how they would draw the water for the. It was for the Parduma? Okay.
Or something like that. No,
Sukkah.
Yes, for us.
I didn't know they have like moments of pictures. Maybe we have to learn Sukkah next.
So how does that resolve the issue? We said before that a sheet of the David Migdal is not good enough.
No, so
Even if someone's possible,
that's Rebbe Shitta. That's Rebbe Shitta. But according to Kula Alma says that that's it. That was fine. You were able to travel like that. Only Rebbe said that you can't travel like that. So this is how to travel to Eretz Kutim. The little bit land, the strip of land. This wasn't a long. It wasn't. Pashtas, it wasn't a lot of land. That's what it sounds like. The Tzua means like a strip of land. But in any case, that's basically how they brought the people walked up, and that's how they brought the ashes back from Yerushalayim to Golel. Okay, Zaktigam back in the Gemarrah. So basically, the Gemarrah finishes off, and it says that the fact that they prepared in Golel wine and oil was for Liol and Oven. Liol and will come. He'll tell us already where to walk properly. The Gemarrah says weiter. In the Mishnah, it said that in the time b'shas hagitois, in the time of the pressing of the olives or the wine, nemonim af ala tuma, the amalatzim would be trusted even for tuma to say that it's toil. Fedim avamini. I'm going to ask you still that there's a contradiction within the Mishnah. Hagoy mezei. If someone finishes his olives, so there's a guy an haaretz, he owns a bunch of olives. There is a shit that says when are olives, do they become kosher hechshel lekabel tuma? We know that any type of fruits become kosher lekabel tuma when it becomes wet. With olives, it's a little bit different. Olive has its own juice, and it would sit in something. It could be sitting in its own juice even before you press it. Certain oozes out. And there's a shit that says that even though it had that juice, it's not considered real juice. It's considered moyal, and therefore that it's not metam. It's not machsher to mekabel tuma. When, according to that opinion, when do olives become loy to mekabel tuma? When you bring them to the olive press. When you bring them to the olive press. So now I want the juice to come out. Until then, I don't want the juice to come out. The fact that juice comes out is not. I don't want it.
That's because also one of the conditions is
right. You have to have. Yeah, we had this already in the Gemarrah.
Yeah, right, I'm saying you have to have the water has to be on purpose.
So once you put it in the Beis Sabad, once you put it into the olive press, then it becomes hechshel lekabel tuma. Then it becomes ready to be mekabel tuma. So a guy has olives and he has to give tumah. So what does he do? He doesn't want the tumah the olives to be kosher mekabel tuma. So what does he do? He should leave aside one box of olives, and not bring it into the olive press. He should give it to a poor coin, and with that, then it says this is the tumah on all the other olives. Okay, so you basically see that we're talking about the guy is putting it in the olive press. So we're talking about the time, the season that everyone is pressing. The Mishnah said that in the season when everyone's pressing the olives, even amalatzim are trusted it's done. So why do you have to separate it? You can press it, it'll be toil, and give it to the kohen then. Why do you have to give it to the kohen? It says here le'oni kohen. However, Tosfos and most meforshim change it to le'ene kohen. The kohen should see that it wasn't pressed yet. That le'oni kohen doesn't really make sense. Some meforshim say oni kohen means you're giving it to a poor kohen. If you give it to a rich kohen, what is a rich kohen going to do with olive that weren't pressed? He's not going to, he's a best of the mensch. He wants the olive already pressed, the olive oil. So he gives the oni kohen to a poor kohen. But in any case, he gives it to a kohen. So the question is, if he gives it to if he has to separate a box before it becomes kosher lekabel tuma, it's a contradiction on Mishnah. It says that but the time that the Yidden are going to press olives, we trust even Amaratzim on Tumantah. Answer number one is the Mishnah is talking about olives that get ripe in the regular time. So then, and they get ripe in the regular time. The time of pressing comes at usually around Tisha time. Habe is late bloomers. There are certain olives that come in late, and therefore they're going to be pressed late. And the Mishnah already said, if the time of Gitas Vabadim passed, then we don't trust them. So therefore, this blatt is talking about late olives, and he has to press them, and they're pressing them way past the time of Gitas Vabadim. And therefore, the only way you can accept these olives if he separates it before it becomes kosher l'kabel tumah. So that's why this blatt says that's what blatt say that that you don't trust him. He has to separate. Amalei of Adabahava kigon mai. Adabahava turned to Rab Nachman and says, "Kigon mai." What kind of? No, he's saying kigon mai. What kind of olives are talking about? Like the ones that your father has. It seems like Rab Nachman's father had a lot of olives, and they were late bloomer olives, or they got so many olives that they waited till everyone finishes off pressing, and then they would go press, which would be after the season already. So basically, those olives, yes, in order if you want to give tumah to the kohen, you have to separate it in a separate box before it reaches the base habad, the olive press.
Why? Because his workers were Meratzim? He was a big Talmud Chacham.
Yeah, we're not talking about. He's bringing an example. What kind of late olives? Talking about either they grow late or they were brought to the press late, but not to that actual concept. Because for him, they would trust him. He's a chaver. Rav Yosef Amar Beglila Shani. This entire blatt is learned in Galil, and we said the Mishnah said he's only talking about Yehuda, and Yehuda would trust the haaretz in Gitas Vabadim. In Galil, we don't trust the haaretz even by Gitas Vabadim. Eis Vabai. The Bible it says in the Bible, Eva Yaden veGolil harein ki Yehuda. Eva Yaden and Golil technically are just like Yehuda. Ne'monim al yain b'shas yain v'lashem b'shas shemen. The fact that we didn't mention the Mishnah is because we said the story with the Tzua. There's a little land of strip of lands that it's not applicable. But in essence, they trust the Amoratzim just like Yehuda. B'shas yain v'lashem b'shas shemen. Avaloi yain. We don't trust an haaretz to press olives when it's the wine pressing season, and vice versa. So therefore, how could he say that we're talking about late olives? How can we talking about that it's talking about Galil, and Galil also trust him? The first answer that we're talking about late olives. Okay, the olives that grow they came in late. Okay, the Mishnah is gestanden. Avu hagites ve'habadim ve'eviu le'chovish shel yain le'kablenu mena el v'nicha le'gasama. If the season of pressing olives and wine passed, and the haaretz brings a kohen a barrel full of wine, the kohen should not take it because now we don't trust him anymore. But aval v'nicha le'gasama, you can put away wait till Tisha and then give it to him. Boy minei Maseches. So they asked Rav Sheshes, what happens if he accepted it anyways? If the kohen decided, like l'choyre, it doesn't make sense. A month ago, I was able to accept it. In 11 months, I can accept it again. Now I should be able to accept it. L'choyre should be the same thing. B'tzad hasheni, look, the Chacham made a gzeira that haaretz is tameh, and they took it off. B'shas gitas vabadim, they took off the gzeira, and you didn't listen to the Chacham. You should be punished for it. Or no, it's takatami. So what's going on what happens if the kohen accepted it anyways? The kibul mao. Should the kohen put the same barrel, wait till the next season and then take it, because then if he would have accepted it from the haaretz, it would be fine. Amalei 22 we learned it. Says in a Mishnah chove v'haaretz. There was an haaretz, he died, he left a bunch of stuff behind for his kids to inherit. and he had two kids, one Talmud Chacham and one haaretz. There's a halacha that a Talmud Chacham is not allowed to give a toid item to an haaretz because he will make it tamei. Because right automatically, as soon as the haaretz has it in its possession, the item will become tamei. So he's not allowed to give beyudayim to give something to the haaretz. So here we have the Chava and haaretz come, and there's a bunch of items that their father left behind, and they are splitting it. Now also we're having a Yerusha that if once things are divided, then it shows you lemafreya that this belonged to one child number one and this belonged to child number two. It's not like it's divided and then they make a whole what's it called. It's in his father's possession. Once they divide it, then we say, oh, this taka belongs to him and this belongs to him. We know now lemafreya it belongs to him. Why does that make a difference? Because this is what happens. Haaretz, Shiur they received the Yerusha from their father, which was an haaretz. So the Talmud Chacham the Talmud Chacham can tell his brother the haaretz, toil at the chitin shel plain. You take those chitim because he knows those chitim could be tamei. Vani chitin shel plain, and you're not careful with tamei anyways because you're haaretz. Vani chitin shel plain. I'll take those chitim because I'll make sure those chitim are toil. Toil at the yain shel plain, vani yain shel plain. Basically, if it's within the same chitim or yain or shemen or whatever item it is, it's the same species, the same item, he can divide. What happens by Yerusha is that as soon as the father passes away, if let's say there's no b'chol, as soon as the father passes away, we assume everything is split in half. So therefore, if it's split in half, I don't know which half is mine, which half is yours. So the Talmud Chacham tells the haaretz, you take that half, and I'll take this half, and now it's Gilu Mitzvah Afred, it's revealed to us, that this belongs to him. So it's not like the Talmud Chacham gave the haaretz as something Torah B'daim. He gave him the Torah thing, he gave him his part. If the Talmud Chacham would say, we have oil and we have wine. The oil I know could be tamei. The wine is Torah. So I'll take the wine, you'll take the oil. He has a problem. Technically, half of the oil belongs to the Talmud Chacham. So what he's doing is, he's going to take half of the oil and hand it beyadayim. They're going to do a switch. You take the entire, but I'm giving beyadayim oil that might be Torah to haaretz, and I'm making tamei. It's a problem. So you could say within the same species, we can say that by dividing it and then later on saying this is yours, this is mine, is a golem affair that this was mine and this is yours. I'm not handing anything to the haaretz. But if I do a switch, I'm going to take the amount of wine against the amount of oil it'll take, then it's Pashat giving the haaretz a part of his oil b'yadayim. Don't tell him you take the wet stuff, which could become tam, which basically could become tam, and I'll take chitim, you take soilim, because it's two different things, and there's no bill when it comes to two different things. When it's one item, again, when it's one item, they're split in half, and all have to decide which half is mine. So I give you the half that you will take, and I'll take the kasha, the toil half. When it's two different things, then I really have half of even the other item, and I'm giving it to you b'yadayim, that's a problem. And what do we learn in that Mishnah? That Talmud Chacham, he has to receive half of the wet items, and now because it's wet, it's possible that it became tamei. He burns the wet items, and he keeps the dry items. Why does he have to burn the wet, whatever it is, oil or whatever it is? Let it and put it away for next season of printing, of pressing. And in the next season, even his father would have been trusted, and he would have been trusted with the oil, and then he would be able to use it. So
the oil can mix with water, so why would water touch the oil?
No, it's not, because oil is already a liquid. So why does he have to burn it? It's from them that if here the Talmud Chacham took anyways, it's from them that if a kohen took anyways some haaretz oil, a barrel of oil, not in the time of pressing, he should have to burn it. From here, sagt the Gemarrah, and the Gemarrah, this advice is maybe talking about something that does not include a gitin v'badat. The Chum said that only oil and only wine in the time of each pressing time, whenever you press those, whenever you squeeze those things out, that's when the Gzera goes down. But maybe here it's talking about honey, it's talking about a different kind of liquid. Honey, could be talking about water, could be talking about beer, whatever type.
Shechet tomorrow is honey.
Shechet is beer. Shechet Morim.
dates.
Yeah, Shechet Morim tomorrow could be honey. And basically, we're talking about it's. By the way, also talking about this whole thing is too. So basically, now he has to burn it. So why does he have to burn it? Because we're talking about such a thing that even in the time, there's no time that it's ever toil. But in our Mishnah, we're talking about something that at times of the year it's toil. Yes, you can accept it. So therefore, we don't have really an answer. If someone did b'di'evet accept from a haaretz a barrel of wine or oil, not in the time of the oil pressing or the wine pressing, then we don't know. There's no answer yet. We don't really have an answer if you can keep it or not. Let him put away the item for Yontif, and at Yontif also we say that there's less. There's 2 ma'amos. Anybody there's no 2 ma'amos in Yontif, and he let him sell it or use himself. And with the Gemarrah, it's something that cannot stay that long. It's not something that it's perishable. Because it's perishable, he has to get rid of it right away. So therefore, he's burning it. So basically, from our Mishnah, we don't know if someone went and accepted wine or oil, but the evet, what he should do with it. L'chayre, it's not good, but we don't know. The Mishnah continued and said that im hiflish lesoicha, if the haaretz told the kohen that this barrel has an amount of liquid, and im hiflish lesoicha, because whatever. If he says that within this barrel there is an amount of olive or wine that will be used for the Beis Hamikdash, then the entire barrel is good. And it has to be a vis. It has to be a vis. Forgot to mention before, it has to be a vis because less than a vis they wouldn't really care so much. A vis is a significant amount, and he's never. Tanan Hossam. What gelernt in the Mishnah? Moedim b'sham b'silal. The machloikes by a nazir. A nazir is not to walk in a field of dead. Now you have us there pass. You have a field that they know there was a dead body in there, and someone went with a machalesha, with a plow, and plowed the entire field. And now the Gechamim goes that because he plowed, it may be that the dead body is spread all over the field, like fragments of bones that are spread over the field, and it's a problem. Zog the Mishnah. So if a Nazir wants to go to, and it has to pass through such a field, and it's the only way of walking the only way of getting to his destination is going through that field. What should he do? So there's machlokes b'sham b'shil whether they can check the field. Someone can check the field in front of him, and then he can check the field and then continue walking. Machlokes b'sham b'shil. But moedim b'sham b'shil sheboikin loytze Pesach. When it comes to Korban Pesach, which is a timely thing, and if you spend time making sure that you go early, basically you might miss the entire Korban Pesach. Dr. B'Sham B'Sil, they both agreed le'oise Pesach that you can check a field in a certain method with a certain method, and then the field is good and everyone can cross through and go make the Korban Pesach. But we don't check this field the same way for someone that needs to go to Yerushalayim to eat Tumah. My boitkin, how do you check this? And we had this actually in Moed Katan. A person would walk, and it would with something blow in the field, and he would blow strongly enough that whatever is on the ground will lift up, even a little bit of the dirt. And if there's any fragments of bone, they would fly away. And if he sees a fragment of bone, he would make sure to walk around it, not to walk over it. But that's how. And once he does that, he can say, "Oh, this path is clear," and the people can continue walking to do the Korban Pesach. It's not a very thorough way of clearing, but again, the whole chumrah of Beis Hapras is only the Rabbanan. The Rabbanan said that Beis Hapras is matamim. So for Korban Pesach, that the time, if the time runs out, so the Chum said we're not going for us. So Shmuel says when a peach Beis Hapras, if he sees a lot of people walked, you can pretty much be sure that there's nothing in that path that I've walked. There's no bones. So Dr. Le'oise Pesach. Why did I say for Pesach? They said it's such a checking is good enough. Lo hamidu devleim. The Chacham did not put down the word b'makim kodesh. If you don't make a Pesach, what does the Torah says? That you have kodesh. If you don't make a Pesach in time, you will get kodesh. So the Chacham said, "I'll take down my gzeida. I'm not going to put down my words. In Chaz Shalom, you're not going to be able to do the Pesach because of some stebras. So the lo hamidu devleim b'makim kodesh. However, eating truma in a truma is misam hashamayim. So eating truma, which there's no time limit, you can eat it later. Go to Yerushalayim, wait 7 days, and then eat it. And they made sure to put the words firm in a place where you could die if they eat it with truma. So for truma, it's not good enough, but for Pesach, it's good enough. Okay, iboilu. We're mentioning this because you'll see in a moment. But a guy checked the field, he's walking and he's blowing, according to the media, he's blowing the field and he's walking, he's blowing the field and he's walking, and he gets to Yerushalayim and does his call Pesach and he says, you know what, I also have tumah with me. And I'm a kohen or whatever it is, can I eat the tumah also? It's like funny to say that I walked through the field, I'm tired enough to do a call Pesach, but tumah no, sorry, you're tummy. It's a funny concept. If you check for Skam Pesach, you can eat this tumah also. Ula says, that's good. Rabba Ula, they're not related. Rabba Ula says, it's not good enough. So some elderly person told Rabba Ula, do not argue with Ula. And here, by the way, they say the reason why we know that the Rabba Ula is not related because the Saba would have told him, don't argue with your father. So he told him, don't argue with Ula. That Nanaka was saying, our Mishnah will learn according to Ula. What does it say in the Mishnah? If the Amal says that inside this barrel there's at least a levies of wine or oil that is going to be, I want to assign it, designate to the Mizbeach. Neman, we trust him also in the Tumah. So it's basically, once you Kodesh, we trust him with Tumah. Kol Pesach is Kodesh. So the Chodesh says, Alma, midem eheiman ha-Kodesh, meiman ha-Tumah. Hochanami, midem eheiman ha-Pesach, meiman ha-Tumah. He also, once he walks through the field and he's good enough for the Kol Pesach, he's good enough for the Tumah as well. Okay, so die Gemarrah weiter. And jugs of oil and jugs of wine, jugs of oil. Tana, we learned in the Baisa. We don't trust in haaretz on a kankan, as a smaller jug. What? Yeah. We also don't trust him with tumah. So now you're saying a statement, explain. Kankanim demai. What are we talking about? What kind of kankanim are we talking about? Kankanim, the Kodesh. If we're talking about kankanim from Kodesh, so that the contents inside the bottle is something that's going to go on the Mizbeach, why should you not trust him? We said we trust Kodesh. What difference does it make what type of vessel it is? So you're going to say it's Tumah, and we're not talking about the time of Badim. So Pshita. Hashta Tumah loy mehemon throughout the year. Don't trust him with Tumah. You're going to trust him. It's not a Chiddush. Elo berikanim the Kodesh. The kankan, the vessel, was tohel, and it contained in the vessel wine or oil that would go on his Mizbeach. And he emptied the vessel, and now you have the empty vessel. Could you trust the vessel? We said in the Mishnah we trust haaretz on the actual kodesh, on the actual in our actual tumah we only trust once a year. But what about the vessel? Zakt, it's talking about an empty vessel. It had kodesh in it. And it's in the rest of the year. So it's not gitas abadim. Gitas abadim, we know we trust him because that's the time. Ubemelain the tumah. Oh, sorry. That's what the Mishnah is talking about. Kankan. Then the Mishnah, we said in Tana, we said we don't trust an haaretz and tumah. We're talking about that if he puts tumah inside. If he puts tumah inside the bottle, 1 second. Oh, with Malayan Tuma, and if he puts now Tuma inside those bottles, Ubishasa Gitas, even in the time when they're doing Gitas, we still don't trust the vessel. Once the vessel was was empty for a period of time, and it wasn't used for Kodesh, we say the vessel is now maybe not good enough. And Rashi explains that the Chacham, if you come to the Beis Hamikdash, if you come to the Kohen with that Tumah, he would have to take it out of the vessel and use it like that. Tanan, Kada Yain v'Kada Shemen with the Mois. If wine or oil, jugs of wine, jugs of oil with the Mois, which it was said in the Mishnah that it means that had in it Teruma and Chulin, mixed up Tumah and Chulin. My love with the Mois. So basically, in the Mishnah we say that Kada Yain and Kada Shemen that had mixed Truma and Chulin, we do trust them Bagitas. So we see clearly we do trust the vessel. Why do we just learn that we don't trust him with the vessel? That the Kohen has to take it out of the vessel. Then Kada Yain Kada Shemen with the Mois. My love with the Mois the Tumah. We're talking about Tumah. And he say we trust. No, you have to touch in the Mishnah that what's meduma mean? That it's mixed kodesh and chulin. Fighting Gemarrah does the word meduma exist by kodesh? It only exists by tuma because the pasuk says miliascha v'dimacha. It doesn't exist by kodesh. Meika dimur kodesh. Amadu be'eloi bemetar estivloi litel men nesachim. He basically has a barrel, and it's nothing, and he says that out of this barrel I want to take out kodesh and I want to take out truma, and so basically he comes with that mindset that there's going to be truma inside and kodesh inside. So even though in his mind everything is mixed, we still trust him because of eventually the kodesh that he is going to use. Again, he comes to the Beis Hamikdash with one barrel. And it's mixed with, in his mind, he says, part of it's going to be kodesh, part of it's going to be tumah, part of it's going to be chulin. So we say we trust him because of the kodesh. So that's what the Mishnah is talking about. The kadiyai medumas, we're talking about kodesh, and we trust him b'shasa gitois. But because it's not kodesh yet, we only trust him by gitos, and because it's not kodesh yet, we only trust him for the 7 days. Yeah. Finish off the line. Dinahu, it's a halacha. The loyal arisa lemitrach agulfi, that the others, a worker in the field that is hired on commission to work in the field, he has to prepare the barrel, so the kadiyan shivin yoyim mikamin betzalta before the day of the harvest. He has to clean everything out in order that in 70 days they'll have toil kalim chaim.